In 2024, President Trump's threat of a 30% tariff on Canadian and Mexican goods triggered a seismic shift in North American trade. Canada and Mexico, longtime partners, began secret talks to forge a new economic path, one that would bypass the United States entirely. Their goal: a direct trade route moving high-value cargo between their countries, nullifying U.S. tariffs and customs fees. This Northern Corridor Free Trade Series is more than a shipping lane. It's a bold declaration of economic independence, challenging America's role as the continent's trade hub. By building a system outside U.S. control, Canada and Mexico are creating a resilient, technologically advanced supply chain that could permanently alter the flow of goods across North America. As the U.S. turns inward, its neighbors are forging a bilateral alliance that could redefine the continent's economic geography for generations. The Northern Corridor Free Trade Series is a master plan to reroute trade that once flowed through the U.S. In 2024, $756 billion in goods from Canada and Mexico passed through the U.S., $138 billion of it as hub trade, processed or assembled in American facilities. The new corridor aims to divert at least half of this hub trade, about $69 billion, by 2026, using upgraded ports, streamlined customs, and new shipping routes. This network integrates rail, sea, and digital infrastructure, handling 15 million tons of high-value cargo annually, from auto parts to LNG. By eliminating U.S. customs fees and logistics costs, the corridor makes the new route so attractive that businesses are unlikely to return to old patterns, even if tariffs disappear. For decades, U.S. infrastructure was the backbone of Canada-Mexico trade. Now, much of it will be bypassed. The Northern Corridor is a direct challenge to America's logistical dominance, proving that trade will find new paths when old ones are blocked. The Pacific Short Link is the western anchor of the Northern Corridor, connecting Mexico's industrial heartlands to Canada's Port of Prince Rupert. A $2.3 billion Canadian investment has transformed Prince Rupert into a world-class logistics hub, ready for a surge in Mexican cargo. Goods like auto parts and electronics will travel by rail to Mexican Pacific ports, then by ship directly to Prince Rupert, bypassing the U.S. entirely. This route is not only tariff-free but also faster and more efficient, avoiding congested U.S. borders and highways. For American logistics operators in states like Texas and Arizona, the impact is immediate: billions in lost revenue. The Pacific Short Link is a permanent restructuring of supply chains, not a temporary fix. It's a powerful example of how targeted infrastructure can redraw trade maps and shift economic power. On the east, the Great Lakes Flexible Ring severs reliance on U.S. infrastructure for goods like steel. Canadian steel, once routed through the U.S. Rust Belt, will now travel by ship from the Great Lakes through the St. Lawrence Seaway and directly to Veracruz, Mexico. This maritime bypass is a blow to U.S. cities like Buffalo, which will see transit cargo volumes plummet. The shift wipes out billions in U.S. logistics revenue and turns a land-based challenge into a streamlined Canada-Mexico-controlled operation. The flexible ring uses existing infrastructure in new ways, transforming the St. Lawrence Seaway into a modern trade superhighway. By reimagining the flow of goods, Canada and Mexico are isolating the U.S. from a growing segment of North American trade. The eastern and western bypasses together create a pincer movement, fundamentally altering the continent's trade landscape. The U.S. is left watching as its neighbors build a new, independent trade superhighway. The automotive sector, once centered in the U.S. Midwest, is being transformed by the new Canada-Mexico corridor. The traditional transport assembly corridor, running through Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, handled $85 billion in semi-finished products. Now advanced battery modules from Mexico's Baguio Tech EV hub will go directly to Ontario for final assembly, bypassing the U.S. entirely. This shift cuts out the American middleman, redirecting value and jobs north and south. Detroit and the Midwest are projected to lose hundreds of thousands of vehicles and tens of thousands of jobs, hollowing out the region's economic base. By combining Mexico's battery production with Canada's assembly expertise, the two nations are building a resilient green automotive supply chain. For American workers, it's a bitter pill. A new, competitive corridor is rising around them, leaving them on the outside. The digital customs bridge is the backbone of the new corridor, creating a virtually borderless customs environment between Canada and Mexico. By integrating Canada's blockchain-based system with Mexico's TFAS database, goods can be pre-cleared electronically, no U.S. oversight required. This eliminates the $35 US pre-clearance tax per shipment and slashes delays in paperwork. The US stands to lose billions in customs revenue, and more importantly, its role as trade gatekeeper. For supply chain managers, the new route is a risk-free lane, predictable, fast, and efficient. The digital customs bridge is a statement. Canada and Mexico have the technology and will to operate independently. As more cargo shifts to this system, the US finds itself increasingly sidelined from a trade flow it once dominated. The economic fallout for the US is massive. With $69 billion in hub trade diverted, American ports, rail yards, and highways lose a critical revenue stream. Indirect losses in logistics services, fuel, insurance, warehousing add another $17 billion. The employment multiplier effect means job losses ripple through local economies, totaling $120 billion in the first 2 years. Over 5 years, US losses could reach $245 billion, more than the gains from NAFTA's early years. The Midwest faces a 2.8% economic decline, with workers and companies left in the lurch. Ironically, the tariffs meant to protect American interests have triggered a realignment that inflicts deep, lasting damage. The new corridor isn't just about trade, it's a leap toward a green economy. By combining Canada's low-carbon steel and renewables with Mexico's advanced battery manufacturing, the partnership creates a product ecosystem with global appeal. Goods produced in this supply chain can earn green certifications, exempting them from strict regulations like Europe's carbon border adjustment mechanism. Canada's LNG exports to Mexico, once bound for California, now power Mexican industry, boosting energy security and environmental credentials. The cost savings from the new route can be reinvested in green tech, making the risk-free lane a green lane. Canada and Mexico are proactively building a modern, sustainable economic bloc, positioning themselves as leaders in 21st century trade. The first shipments through the Northern Corridor will prove the cost and efficiency of the direct Canada-Mexico route. If the projected $68 per ton cost holds, far less than the $102 per ton US route, old trade patterns are unlikely to return. We are witnessing the dawn of a new North American trade order, no longer centered on the US. A powerful north-south axis is emerging, forcing the US to compete for trade it once took for granted. Canada and Mexico will likely deepen integration, collaborating on technology, regulations, and global trade. The US must choose, adapt, and re-engage, or risk further isolation. The Northern Corridor is more than a workaround. It's a landmark in North American economic history. The era of American centrality is over. A more complex, competitive chapter has begun.